Streaming live on WFLA Now. Powered by 1-800-ASK-GARY. Here's J.B. Buno.
Moments ago, outside the home of Brian Laundrie and his parents. Listen in.
Mr. Laundrie, where's your son? Do you know anything about what happened to Gabby Petito? Why aren't you talking? Why aren't you out looking for your son?
All questions that we all want answers to, as now a Tampa law firm is stepping up here, offering a $20,000 reward to find out where exactly is Brian Laundrie. We're here live on WFLA Now to break down the very latest. Hey there, folks. J.B. Buno here with you live. We've been live, of course, over the last several days with 8 on your side. Senior investigator Walt Petito joining us there in the top right-hand portion of your screen. Great to have now on for the first time in our team coverage here. Of course, WFLA News Channel 8 anchor Stacey Scheibel joining us there in the bottom right-hand portion of your screen. You'll see her, of course, tonight on WFLA News Channel 8 at 6 o'clock, but she's spending a few minutes here with us. This all happening here a moment ago. Let's listen in here one more time. We're going to play back this clip from News Nation's Brian Entin, tweeting this out a moment ago, confirming here that the Laundrie parents made a trip this morning, left the area, went to Orlando, and just got back here within the last 40 or so minutes. And of course, when they arrived, the media was there asking a whole lot of questions. So what we're going to do is we're going to listen in to the questions that were asked a short time ago. Again, this is from News Nation's Brian Entin and various media that had gathered here outside of the home of Brian Laundrie.
Why aren't you talking? Why aren't you out looking for your son? Where do you think he is? Why aren't you in reserve looking for your son? What were you doing in...
Here's the clip again. The Laundrie parents arriving here back to Northport from Orlando a short time ago.
Mr. Laundrie, where's your son? Do you know anything about what happened to Gabby Petito? Why aren't you talking? Why aren't you out looking for your son?
Where do you think he is?
Why aren't you at the reserve looking for your son? What were you doing in Orlando?
Back here live with our team, of course. Again, Walt Petito. You can use any of the hashtags here on your screen as we're live across multiple social media platforms here. We'll feature your comments here live on WFLA Now. But let's bring up Stacey and Walt here. Guys, what do you make of this recent development here? We can talk here about the $20,000 reward, and also, too, now the Laundrie parents leaving the area this morning. Ford Mustang back in the driveway. The camper there as well, leaving the area, going to Orlando for unknown reasons, and back here a short time ago. What do you think, Walt?
I think it just adds to the speculation, because it is all speculation at this point. They left, they came back. In a normal day, they could leave and come back. Nobody would notice, but now there are 20 lenses focused on them, the whole world focused on them, questions being asked of them. And for all we know, it was a regular drive to Orlando, but we don't know a whole lot. There are some rumors swirling that I'm not going to share, but I think it just adds to the speculation and adds the fact that people want to hear from the Laundries, but obviously they have a right not to talk. So,
you know, it's interesting to me. I think so many people are wondering why they aren't talking. The question is, if their son is truly missing, why don't they make a public appeal for him to come back, considering he's a person of interest? I think no one's leaving that neighborhood until there are more answers in the case. So I think this is a difficult position for them to be in as parents, but so many people, I think, would love to see them step up and say something.
And let's talk about the $20,000 reward now, and we'll have the details for you, of course, on WFLA.com, the WFLA app, the latest on Gabby Petito, Brian Laundrie, and now this reward, $20,000 that have been offered by a law firm here in the Tampa area. The Buhoff Law Firm, as I understand it, offering a $20,000 reward here. We did get word into our newsroom a short time ago that there was another reward offered here in this case. This is not a reward that is coming from authorities or any law enforcement agency of note. This is coming again from a Tampa law firm. And Walt, they can do this. They can offer a reward if the law firm receives information. They have the right to, of course, give monetary compensation to the individual that comes forward with information that helps them find Brian Laundrie, if that's, of course, like we said, the United States of America, you can do what you want pretty much in that regard, right?
100%. You wonder, and I'm sure we'll find out what their connection is. Are they just sort of captivated by what's happened the way many others are, or do they have a personal connection to the Petitos somehow? We don't know that. I will say I think the reward is great if it sort of greases the skids and gets the police department closer to Brian so they can ask questions and figure out what happened theoretically. But I think also people are already motivated and already probably looking for him. But then again, you could say that now anybody who's not following the case, they see that money out there. They might take a closer look at what Brian looks like, take a closer look at the tattoo on his hand, and maybe keep their eyes out.
What do you think, Stacey?
I agree. I think the money can only help because apparently, I'm guessing Brian has a very, very small inner circle. And if this prompts anyone to even give speculation that could lead them in a new direction, lead authorities in a new direction, I think that pot might just keep going up if others want to add to it and finally kind of put a little closure on the case, at least find Brian so he can answer some questions.
We have a lot of comments coming in here. We're going to take your hashtag HeyJB, hashtag HeyWalt, hashtag HeyStacey comments here in the Facebook Live comment section. We'll be here with you live till about 6 Eastern, although you'll see Stacey Scheibel, of course, on the anchor desk on WFLA News Channel 8. Your NBC station 8 on your side here in the Tampa Bay area, so grab your remote controls, folks, and tune into to our 6 o'clock newscast coming up your way here. But the $20,000 reward now, here's my first thought. Here's my first thought on the $20,000 reward here. So, of course, now everyone's going to be talking about this law firm. And again, the law firm coming forward here and saying that we're going to offer $20,000 for anyone that comes forward now. Now, is there going to be another law firm that's going to come forward and no, we'll make it $30,000, $40,000, $50,000? And is the number just going to go up here as law firms continue to we've been talking about law firms, Stephen Bertolino. We've been talking about Richard B. Stafford, those two law firms being in New York now. But now we have, for the first time here, involvement here from a Florida attorney trying to, of course, bring this story to its next development, and that, of course, would be finding Brian wherever he may be. And we'll have to look, Walt, into the semantics here of this reward here, because we've been talking about scenario A, which is Brian is found alive. Scenario B is if he is found deceased, and if he is found deceased, does the $20,000 reward apply to if they can confirm that the whereabouts are Brian?
Did they put parameters on the $20,000?
The not so fine print. A reward will be paid once the investigating law enforcement agency supplies Buhoff Law written verification that a tip helped lead to locating Brian Laundrie. So it's not just any tip. It's going to be, and there's going to have to be written verification. The authorized reward will remain open for 2 months, starting from the receipt of the tip by the investigating law enforcement. And I swear I saw on Twitter, I'm going to look for it right now, I thought there was another reward. Did you reference that,
A $5,000 reward was put out elsewhere as well.
Yeah.
So now,
the other thing I find really interesting about this is the reward money may, motivate somebody to say something that they aren't otherwise motivated to say. But what I find very interesting is the pressure of the media and the continued coverage on this case. When is it going to wane? What if he isn't found for 2 weeks, 3 weeks, 4 weeks? That's the question. How long will they stay camped out in front of the parent's house? And once there is an exact cause of death, then could that change person of interest to suspect in Brian's case?
Now, with this story, Walt, Stacey, affecting so many different areas of the country, really, as Walt noted, the entire world's following this story right now. Now, if there's multiple attorneys putting out multiple rewards, and there is that magic person out there that has information that knows where Brian is, and they come forward, can they collect the $20,000 check from state A and this check from state B, and can they just rake in all of this money from all of these individual rewards that are being put out there, Walt?
I would think so.
Yeah, I mean, I think it would depend on the law firms, but I'm going to just say, I think to your point, I don't think these are going to be the last two. And then the question comes that really opens it up to, to how many rewards are out there. And then keep in mind the jurisdictions in this case: New York, Wyoming, Utah, Florida, and many points in between. So that leads you to think, well, we're not the only ones watching it, right?
What do you think, Stacey?
Yeah, I agree. I think everybody's watching this. I think in Wyoming, in Moab, in New York, in Florida. I mean, people have already thought they had sightings of him. You would think if he was on the run, somebody would have seen him by now, just based on the sheer coverage of this case. I think everybody's pretty much got his picture ingrained in their mind. I think Walt and I were talking a little bit about that earlier. That's part of the reason that I think this case has had so much traction, so much more than other cases, because there's so much video out there, and they put themselves out there and made themselves public. So you almost felt like you were following their story, and then you start to see the body cam video and the video they didn't want you to see. And everybody's got all kinds of speculation about what went on here. Why did it happen? What really happened? And there's just so many unanswered questions. I can't tell you the endless conversations I've had in the newsroom with various people talking about it.
What do we got?
We got something?
For whom? Breaking news, folks.
Breaking news on WFLA Now. Here's JB Buno.
The FBI Denver moments ago here on Twitter issuing an arrest warrant, a federal arrest warrant for Brian Christopher Laundrie pursuant to a federal grand jury indictment related to Mr. Laundrie's activities following the death of Gabrielle Petito. This according to FBI Denver here moments ago. Back here with you live. We've been live talking about the $20,000 reward, but now, wow, what a development here into our newsroom here.
But people
just
have been
seconds ago,
waiting
seconds
for
ago,
this.
and we've been Stacey, we've been talking about this. Any developments here that we're going to come in? We were going to be here live with you, and Stacey, yeah, here we are. We're live with it now, and we've been waiting for this, or the public really has been waiting for this.
You know what? It makes me think they maybe do have now the specific cause of death. Maybe that's what they were waiting for. We haven't gotten word from that, but perhaps the FBI has, because people have wondered, I think, for a while, why there hasn't been an arrest warrant, given all the circumstances and a lack of any other person of interest in this case. So I think we'll probably find out more tonight, but that is definitely a very interesting development. What does that do to the rewards with the law firms, too? I'm not sure how that changes it.
I don't think that changes that, but I will. To me, if there was a delay, I mean, let's face it, the body was found only 4 days ago, but I think it seems to me a possibility could be the connecting of the dots between the search on Monday and the continued investigation into the cause of death. I would bet they have a suspected cause of death, but now do they have a cause of death and perhaps a possible weapon?
Evidence of some sort?
It's obviously evidence that pushed it over the top, but it's now a federal warrant for this guy.
Again, if you're just joining us here, folks, seconds ago, this is how 2021 news works here, folks, as far as Twitter. A tweet goes out from the FBI, and the entire world learns of a new development in the story, and that new development is that the FBI Denver has issued a federal arrest warrant. Now, we need to have new details here, because what is the potential charge here? What are they talking about as far as the grounds here for the arrest warrant? And also, too, is there any information here regarding the evidence that they must now have to escalate this now to an arrest warrant being issued for Brian Laundrie? Walt or Stacey, are you guys seeing anything here?
So, I'm reading the exact wording, and it's a federal arrest warrant. It does not say for what, we probably can get that warrant online pretty quickly. The feds do that with their court documents. And again, I'll repeat just listen to every word here. While this warrant allows law enforcement to arrest Mr. Laundrie, the FBI and our partners across the country continue to investigate the facts and circumstances of Miss Petito's homicide. So it does not necessarily say what he's being arrested for here.
It's just a blanket federal arrest warrant.
Pursuant to a federal grand jury indictment related to Mr. Laundrie's activities following the death of Gabrielle Petito. So that's interesting. It's not necessarily an arrest warrant for a murder charge, even though this is it would be some sort of charge along those lines, even though this is a homicide investigation. It does not say this is an arrest warrant for murder, criminally negligent homicide, whatever. It just says arrest warrant pursuant to a federal grand jury indictment related to Mr. Laundrie's activities following the death of Gabrielle Petito. That's even interesting, right?
Following the death. And it makes me think it raises even more questions than we already have. A, why did this take as long as it did? And B, why aren't they being a little more specific about what they're wanting to arrest him exactly for?
It shows great detail and great care. And, it shows that perhaps not every piece of the puzzle is collected yet, as in the evidence is
But
not
they
collected
came up
yet.
with enough to put this out.
But think about it. I was wondering this as well, though. And I almost said this earlier, JB. So you're looking for Brian Laundrie. When you find him, he's a person of interest. Do you handcuff a person of interest?
Yep.
And now
You can.
Now I don't know if that's the reason, but I don't know that you generally handcuff a person of interest. So
Stacey, I know you got to get going here.
do.
Your final thoughts here on this breaking news development.
I'm not surprised. I think so many have wondered what's taking so long to move him from a person of interest to actually being able to arrest him. So now we've made that leap. Will that help flush him out wherever he is? I don't know, but I think this is a definite development right on the heels of that reward out there. So that pressure is just now keeps going up and up and up and a little bit. And it makes me wonder too, is there any way to connect the dots with the parents' trip to Orlando, which was for business?
Yep.
Right?
The same exact thing. That was my next point is this all now, are the puzzle pieces coming together here as far as the trip to Orlando and now the parents being back and now the FBI Denver issuing a federal arrest warrant for Brian Laundrie here. Folks, you'll catch WFLA's Stacey Scheibel on our News Channel 8 at 6 o'clock broadcast coming your way in about 10 minutes time. Stacey, thanks, of course, for spending some time with us on WFLA Now.
My pleasure.
All right, everybody, back here with you live with Walt Petito, JB Buno here with you. And Walt, a lot to break down here.
Just not to interrupt, producer Eric Altman heard us talking and from our office said there is no arrest warrant on Pacer yet. It is pretty quick. And I will tell you,
explain to our viewers that are unaware what Pacer is.
So in many states you can't get any information online. In some states, in this state you can get state court documents online, which is great. Other states you can't. You can maybe check a docket. The feds have had a online service called Pacer for several years, and we pay for it. We pay per page, but it allows us to get federal documents pretty quickly, indictments and complaints and such. But I will tell you, sometimes arrest warrants can take a while. Sometimes I've seen cases where they don't show up there, that you don't see anything until the actual complaint is filed or till the indictment is filed. But still, that's what we were checking. It's a federal website. You buy a subscription to it, and you pay per page to get documents from that. But at this point, the warrant. And again, we're talking affidavit. Affidavit would describe exactly, the investigators, they write the story, if you will, and they bring it to a judge. The judge signs it and says, okay, you have enough. Here's your arrest warrant. You can arrest this guy. That document, if we could get it, would fill in a lot of blanks.
Yeah, and let me share this here as well. I've been wondering here, and this is through the help of our commenters, wondering here as well, Gabby Petito's autopsy is still being performed in Northwest Wyoming. And so as the autopsy is being performed here, and of course, as we learn more here about the cause of death here, as to what led to Gabby Petito and what led to her death, was there something that came forward now in the autopsy? These are different scenarios where a federal arrest warrant could be issued. Was there a clue in the autopsy that said, remember, homicide is not murder. So was there something that came through here tonight or today that led them to conclude that it wasn't an accidental death, that this was somebody one human who killed another human being, and that also too is an element of the puzzle here. So we're going to find out more here as far as the federal arrest warrant, but right now it's still unclear as to the grounds. What led us from him being a person of interest, not even being named a suspect, or no, I guess, would you consider him a suspect now, Walt?
I was going to ask the same question. It does not, and it does. The warrant again, and I'm going to think, because we pay for this government, I'm going to think and hope that they're very careful with their wording. It is the FBI, and that they said circumstances following the death of Gabby Petito.
Yeah,
That's interesting. That's interesting wording right there. And what is it? We don't know what it means, and I don't know that we'll have clarification.
We don't want to name him a suspect until that's the words of the FBI, right? We didn't call it a criminal investigation until the FBI called it a criminal investigation. Walt, I know you're talking to our team here, and we'll bring you back in here in just a moment. We're going to feature your hashtag HeyJB, hashtag HeyWalt comments and questions coming in here, folks, momentarily. I'd like to thank all of our audience joining us here, everybody on WFLA.com, the WFLA app, as well as on YouTube, Facebook. I think we're live on Twitter. We should be live on Twitter. If you're just joining us here, everybody, in the last several moments, FBI in Denver announcing a federal arrest warrant for Brian Christopher Laundrie, who is still missing. Moments ago, you can see here the Laundrie family returning from Orlando, a trip that they made earlier on today. They got the silver Ford Mustang convertible back in the morning. They left again this morning, a second departure from the residence here in Northport, Florida, leaving the house, going to Orlando, and now getting back here a moment ago. Additionally, a $20,000 reward has been offered for any information by a Tampa law firm, any information that leads to Brian Laundrie's whereabouts. So some significant developments here in the last 30 to 40 minutes here. The Laundrie family returning home, $20,000 reward being offered, but biggest of all, Brian Laundrie now wanted for a federal arrest warrant here in the United States.
Producer Eric Altman here shortly that we have on the arrest warrant, if you can. But keep talking while I wait for those details.
Sure. All right, so we're getting in new details here, folks, on the federal arrest warrant. People want information. I know you want specifics. You know how I know you want specifics? Because I want specifics. Of course, we're completely invested in this story now. We have been for more than a week. But I want specifics. I want to know why the FBI now is upgrading this to being classified as something that is
arrestable.
Arrestable, yes. That rises to the level of a federal arrest warrant. So this is from
Brian Enton, and we have, you are commanded to arrest and bring before a United States magistrate judge without unnecessary delay Brian Christopher Laundrie, who is accused of an offense or violation based on the following document filed in court: indictment. So and then the charge, here's the offense, is briefly described as follows: use of unauthorized access devices. We're going to have to look that up.
Repeat that one more time, Walt.
The charge is, the offense is briefly described as use of unauthorized access devices. Hold on.
Federal arrest warrant for that. I want to make sure that we're clear here, and I'll take all the time that you need here, folks. An arrest, there has to be a reason that you're being arrested. This is common sense, folks. And quite frankly, we're still, again, we're confirmed. This is all happening now in real time.
This is theoretically, and this is a relatively long statute. This is theoretically about, it can be about counterfeit access device. Any access device that is counterfeit, fictitious, altered, or forged. unauthorized access device, any access device that is lost, stolen, expired, revoked, canceled, or obtained with intent to defraud. It can be about traffic, as in meaning transfer or otherwise dispose of, or another obtain control with intent to transfer or dispose of. Speculation abounds here. Device making equipment, any equipment, mechanism, or impression designed to primarily be used for making an access device or a counterfeit access device. Credit card system member, that type of thing. And also scanning receiver. So any of those, creating any of that or accessing any of that, a scanning receiver defined as a device or apparatus that can be used to intercept a wire or electronic communication. It's what an interesting charge this is, and another twist to this case.
So this charge now isn't, there's no mention of Gabby Petito?
No mention of Gabby Petito in the actual charge, no. No mention of the case. Just Laundrie. Just Laundrie's name, Brian Christopher Laundrie. It references an indictment that we don't have yet. The indictment will be better than a search warrant in many ways, but the indictment, which we should have at some point, it should be public at some point relatively soon. But again, the offense is briefly described as follows: use of unauthorized access device. So I wish we had a legal expert right now. To me, this could refer to what we've been talking about: cell phones. We've been talking about various electronic devices. We don't have Gabby Petito's electronic device. And then we also have, by the way, a connection to Florida in this, in that they did pull that, that external hard drive from the van. Did they find something on the external hard drive to get an arrest warrant? Because, again, it's a good question that we talked to a legal expert. That was my story that was on at 5. We talked to a legal expert. I did not ask that question, but it's a great question. What could this possibly mean? And how do you even come up with this sort of charge? Where does the information come up with this sort of charge? And then what we talked about earlier, what pushes someone from person of interest to suspect? He's not a suspect in a homicide. He is a suspect in this charge, which does not roll off the tongue. So I got to look at it again. It is use of unauthorized access devices is what it is. So what was he he was using a device he was unauthorized to use. What would that be? Could it be Gabby's phone? Could it be Gabby's laptop?
Hold on, like though. If my wife is in the kitchen and she's cooking, and I grab her phone and I send a text to my mother-in-law, and I use her phone, right? I better hope. Let's hope that's not a federal arrest warrant type of crime. If you take someone's phone and you send a text message to, again, this is now for Brian Laundrie. Now, if he sends, if we have to stay rooted in reality, if Brian Laundrie sends those final text messages from Gabby Petito's device. Is that a crime?
Let me just read this. Okay, so access device is defined. Instead of using the term credit card or debit card instrument, the term access device is used. This seems to be then more about credit cards, credit card instruments, and then in quotes, card, plate, account number, electronic serial number, mobile identification number, personal identification number, or other telecommunications service equipment. The word equipment is in there, or instrument identifier, or other means of account access that can be used.
Oh wow! Look at this. Hold on, Robert. What am I looking at? This is the indictment.
Oh, we have the indictment now.
So this is the indictment.
That's it.
Just came in a moment ago, and I'm going to read the indictment. I think everybody here deserves to have this read word for word. The grand jury in the District of Wyoming, United States District Court, the grand jury charges that on count 1 of the indictment, from on or about August 30th, 2021, through and including on or about September 1st, 2021, in the District of Wyoming and elsewhere, the defendant, Brian Christopher Laundrie, knowingly and with intent to defraud, used one or more unauthorized access devices, namely a Capital One bank debit card ending in 8774 and a personal identification number for a Capital One bank account ending in 0525 and 8665, and by such conduct obtained things of value aggregating to $1,000 or more during that period. Wow. Which affected interstate commerce in violation of, and then the code that is in violation of, and it is signed by the foreperson and the acting U.S. attorney. So this is unauthorized use of a debit card and gaining access to a Capital One bank account. And it doesn't say that it's the bank account of Gabby Petito, but it is a bank account that he was unauthorized to use.
You know, we've been filling in that timeline. So now if we believe the 27th is the last time someone saw Gabby Petito, and I'm citing not necessarily the text message, but the eyewitness account of an argument in a restaurant out in the Moab, Utah area. If that is the last time we saw her, now they're focused on the 30th and the 1st of September, correct? Is that right?
Yeah, no, I think
so he is on the way. So theoretically, he's on the way back from that area
but
to Florida.
The indictment does now. Denver is in Colorado. FBI Denver. The indictment filed in U.S. District Court of Wyoming.
So what? So you know, I'm going to
timeline
that
is
district,
so key now.
But it also you bring up a really good point. Because if the card, this is not about using the cards across the country. This would theoretically be about using the cards or the account in that district, right?
Yep.
And what is Wyoming's district cover?
Otherwise, it would be, this is in it because it's a federal crime now. It would be filed in the district in which the crime was committed. The indictment, of course, would apply to that district. Of course, that's a federal law. But now the grand jury charging this now in these accounts, and it appears now it's 2 accounts. Let's also point that out. A debit card, but accessing 2 accounts, very likely to be a checking and a savings account.
The District of Wyoming covers just Wyoming, all the counties in the state of Wyoming. So is this something that was purchased? This is obviously something purchased in Wyoming, using something that was allegedly not his and without the permission of the owner of that particular credit card, right?
Now, we don't know that, right. And the owner...
and by the way, $1,000?
$1,000?
What's that mean? That's... And I hate speculation, but there's been... The rumor mill has been... And it's going to just be fed by this. We don't know the answer. But there's that whole vine where we talk about Petito supposedly flying home from Wyoming and then going back to get the van. That was that's out there. And $1,000, what are you spending $1,000 on?
I don't even want to speculate.
May swirl,
don't want to speculate.
That's not a tank of gas.
No, it is not.
It's not a tank of gas and food to get home.
Probably.
Right?
I would imagine filling up that Ford white van, $50 to $100.
$50.
Filling it up.
So one tank.
No, probably not $50. Probably somewhere closer to $75 to $100.
Close to $1,000, and it's all in Wyoming. What was allegedly purchased illegally in Wyoming?
And also, too, we don't know now. Let me read this again. Let's all be very, very responsible here in the wording of this indictment. And by such conduct obtained things of value, aggregating to $1,000 or more during the period of August 30th to September 1st. So this is a 2-day period where the indictment states that the defendant here, Brian Christopher Laundrie, made purchases, obtained things of value aggregating to $1,000 or more. So what that means is purchasing more. It wasn't a single thing that was purchased. Things of value that aggregate lead, the summation more than $1,000.
We also know from the release from the FBI that this was about following the death of Gabby Petito, right? This happened following the death of Gabby Petito, and we know what the dates on there are: the 29th and the 30th, right? So does that sort of narrows down when they suspect Gabby Petito was killed? And this news release that we have from Wednesday, actually, but I'm just referring to some dates. The FBI was seeking information from anyone who utilized the Spread Creek dispersed camping area between August 27th and the 30th. So that seems to be the point. Those 3 days are the focus, and now we can sort of narrow it down, sadly, to potentially the 27th and 28th, since he used these devices or these credit cards. He got this money 29th and 30th, correct? That's what it says?
No, the 30th and 1st.
30th and 1st. But the only thing that does not make sense there, obviously, is he's back here on the 1st. What did he
Could the crimes have occurred? Could the crimes have occurred across state lines in multiple jurisdictions, and it's being handled by the District of Wyoming as far as the indictment?
I don't know the answer to that.
That's the question. It's a fundamental question.
My guess is no, but I don't. You don't know, right? Did it start there? I don't know.
Is there any attachment to Gabby Petito's autopsy? Well, no. We can't say that this was filed in the U.S. District Court, District of Wyoming, because of Gabby Petito, because there's nothing in this that names Gabby.
He is not a suspect in a homicide at this point. He's still a person of interest in the homicide. He is I'm going to say he seems to be a suspect in a case of
using someone else's debit card.
Yeah.
That's what it means. So let's tell you what this really means. What this means, and Walt brought it up about 15 minutes ago, and I'll reiterate here what he said. When they now, let's stay positive, right? Let's stay positive. When Brian Laundrie is found, okay, they can slap handcuffs on him immediately. This isn't, we were playing around with the scenario a couple days ago about how because he was a person of interest, if they found him, they're like, and they find him, he's a missing persons case. You find Brian Laundrie wandering around in the Florida wilderness. It's like, hi, Brian, I'm Officer so-and-so. You are the subject of a missing persons case. Please come with us. We'd like to take you home to your parents who filed a missing persons report here in Florida, and we've been asked to take you home. And then, of course, he can say, no, I'm an adult. I'm on a hiking trip. Just wanted to leave all electronics at home and be out in the wilderness and stare at the stars at night. I don't want to go home. I'm a 23-year-old adult. Please leave me be. And there's nothing legally that they can do to say, not so fast. Here's our handcuffs. We're going to no. Now what this indictment means is the moment that Brian Laundrie is found, police can, of course, move in on him, slap handcuffs on him, and arrest him on a federal arrest warrant. Now, it's not the charge that people want. It has no mention of Gabby Petito here. It is not connected to the homicide investigation that is underway in Northwest Wyoming, but it at least gets Brian Laundrie, of course, if he is found, it gets Brian Laundrie into a police department on the charge of a crime, and then they can proceed from there.
Well, and it would also theoretically, if they get him, they can hold him.
Yes.
Right?
Yes, they can hold him.
For only a certain period of time. I'm not sure what you're setting the bail at for something like this, but you now theoretically could hold him for a little bit at least.
All of it on WFLA.com, the WFLA app, wherever you're joining us from here. JB Buno, 8 on your side, senior investigator Walt Buteau, joining us here, everybody, on WFLA Now. This was originally planned to be a very brief stream, Walt. We were talking about the $20,000 reward being issued here in Florida. We were talking about Brian Laundrie's parents returning here from Orlando. Now we have maybe a little bit more insight as to what they were doing in Orlando, if they were communicating with the FBI. Let's make this clear. We have no clue, no idea at this time what Brian Laundrie's parents were doing in Orlando, but we do know that they left from Northport, their home here this morning. They went to Orlando, were gone for several hours, and then got back sometime about an hour to an hour and a half ago. Video here from Brian Enton of News Nation. So we'll continue to break down here the very latest. I'm going to ask all of our commenters here to start filing in your hashtag HeyJB, hashtag HeyWalt comments and questions here in the Facebook Live comment section. We had comments in the queue, but now those comments are dated. There's a new subject matter at hand here, a federal arrest warrant being issued. I'm going to start to bring up the comment section here, Walt, and what I'd like, just give me a moment here to kind of go through these comments here on Facebook and on and on YouTube. But what do you think the public response is going to be to this latest development now that, again, the charge is a federal arrest warrant for use of unauthorized access devices connected to a Capital One bank debit card ending in 8774 and 2 Capital One bank accounts with other digits here?
I think the public's response is going to be, what? I think that's going to start it, and then there's going to be a why. Why do it this way? And I think the answer would be they don't have the evidence yet to charge him with anything more than this. And we know it's a homicide, but we don't know the cause of death. And the feds do not have a way to charge him with more than just this one charge, which if this ends up being much more than this, think about how minor this particular charge is. He used what we're going to presume are I guess we shouldn't do that. He used somebody else's credit cards or debit cards. Without them allowing him to do that.
Okay,
that's what he's charged with.
Really big point here being made by our commenters. You guys are phenomenal. Thank you. You guys have been with us here for this entire process now, and all of these live streams. Walt's been a trooper as far as extended coverage here with us on WFLA Now, but really a big testament to our viewers here for participating in the comment section using hashtag HeyJB and hashtag HeyWalt, Josh, Justin, Allison, Paul, all of our wonderful WFLA News Channel 8 team here on WFLA Now. And I'd like to bring in now some of the commentary that we're receiving here on this story, and this is pretty much what I'm seeing. Like from Paula Thomason, hashtag JB, better than nothing.
3 words. You know what? And I would tell you that's sort of the mentality. Law enforcement needed something, right? And they found that and they put it out there.
Jenny Lee, hashtag JB, sounds like they just wanted to get him on anything they could.
Well,
here's my next question.
Get him's an interesting phrase there. I think they needed a charge, and they have a reason why they needed a charge.
Is there any chance that the Federal Bureau of Investigation just found out recently, like in the last 24 hours, that somebody used this debit card and didn't have the correct access and to charge Brian Christopher Laundrie? How long did they know? It's the Federal Bureau of Investigation. The time here, it's September 23rd. And is there a reason why this is happening now, and why not a week ago? Why, if this is, Ginny, comment saying, sounds like they just want to get him in on anything they could.
I wonder if it is genuinely connected to that, because what have they had the right to search? What has law enforcement had the right to search? They had the right to search the van, which they did. And you're right, there could be a receipt in that van, right?
Yep.
He could have left a receipt, and maybe he signed it, and it wasn't his name, it wasn't her signature. They could have found it on the hard drive, presumably, right? Hard drive could have had financial information on it. Or they could have found it Monday, and maybe that's more likely because it's only 3 days ago, and they could have found something in there on Monday, whether it be her credit cards. Did they find her credit cards, her card on Monday? I don't know.
I have, of course, talked very, very fondly of course, the search teams and law enforcement here, but I can't help but wonder if this indictment on a relatively minor charge compared to murder.
It's a felony.
It is. Okay, it is a felony on a relatively.
Relative
to homicide.
Right.
Unauthorized use or use of unauthorized access devices, this charge here, this charge that is not a homicide charge, it's not a murder charge. Could this have come down when Chief Todd Garrison of Northport Police looked into the cameras and said, we know where Brian is? Because if this could have come down when they said, we know where Brian is, then you could have come in with a federal arrest warrant and gotten him right into Northport Police and held him on this.
I would just tell you, I trust the feds in something like this and believe that they would have done it then if they could have done it then. And if they may, perhaps, I mean, maybe the more likely scenario is they search the house on Monday, they find something, and a light bulb goes off. Hey, wait a minute. Let's get them on that. Let's have that so that and perhaps what this does it release other resources somehow? Does it somehow involve other resources? Does it involve, he's now is he a federal fugitive from justice? He hasn't been adjudicated. I don't know if that involves some other investigative tools that would push this search a little farther. But as Allison Henning has reported, they're looking pretty hard out there in that wooded area. I'm not sure how much, I don't know if more manpower helps them out there or not. I guess it does. Some
video from earlier from Eagle 8 HD, some of the video of them going through Carlton Reserve looking for Brian Laundrie. This remains the focus. The only difference now is that if they find him out here, they can put handcuffs on him, provided that, of course, he is alive here. So I'm with you, Walt. I am. As much as I sounded skeptical there for a moment, I'm with you that I believe that if this federal indictment could have come down sooner, that it would have. And I believe that the FBI is, of course, doing everything that they can to bring this to as expeditious of a resolution here as possible. But the fact of the matter is that there are going to be a lot of people here online that are just saying that are just not satisfied with where we are with the Justice for Gabby cause right now, and that this is I'm very curious to know if I got arrested on this, how long am I going away? How long am I in a federal prison for?
Up to 15 years.
Up to 15 years?
But I assume that would be
for $1,000?
Not for $1,000, but a charge is up to 15 years. But I would assume that would involve much more than a couple of credit cards or debit cards.
Just a roller coaster of a live stream. We were talking about the $20,000 reward here a moment ago that has been put out here by a Tampa attorney. What's the name of the attorney one more time, Walt? Do you have it in front of you by any chance?
Buhoff?
Buhoff Law. Yes, Buhoff Law in Tampa is offering a $20,000 reward for any information that leads to Brian Laundrie's whereabouts. We also have, of course, the parents returning home from Orlando for a mysterious trip for unknown reasons. We don't know why they went to Orlando, but given the circumstances, given the zoo that is outside of their front, right on their front lawn pretty much, you're not going to Orlando to go to Universal and hang out. You're going there for a very particular reason, and we don't know exactly what that reason is at this time. News Nation's Brian Enton, many other reporters were shouting at them, or maybe not even shouting, just, very, very loudly speaking in their direction, asking them, why did you go to Orlando? And of course, they're not answering any questions from the media. They went right in. And if the federal arrest warrant news isn't enough, we also just got in a new development several minutes ago that the Northport Police Department now, their search is off for tonight. Nothing has been found at Carlton Reserve here, an exhausting search effort here. And that Joshua Taylor, the Northport Police PIO, who we've been talking about here on WFLA Now, says that they'll be back at it tomorrow, same time. So there was some uncertainty as to whether or not a Friday search would occur. And right now, they're saying that they are going to be back at it tomorrow, and perhaps it's because they received information here that that there is now a federal arrest warrant in the name of Brian Christopher Laundrie. Yeah. What do we have?
So that pointed out here that it was dated September 22nd. So they just released it today. By the way, somebody online pointed out, and I'm going to just say duh, but it's a great point. We were talking about the $1,000. He very well could have gotten $1,000 in cash.
Yep.
For his trip back.
Yep.
That makes a lot of sense.
Could have gotten 2, 3, 4,000. It's more than 1,000. More than 1,000.
He gets cash, and he heads back with cash, thinking they can't follow his trail, although they weren't trailing him, so it didn't matter, right? He might still be using that 1,000. We don't know.
Here's what I just can't figure out with this story, and this is just me, and I'm taking you inside of my brain here for a second. Here's what I can't figure out with this story. I don't know if Brian Laundrie is smart or stupid. I don't know what to make of this. I don't know if to make if this was a shrewd move, and many of the commenters that have been joining us here on WFLA Now have said that you can't be stupid in 2021 and just vanish off the grid like he has, that there had to have been a lot of, again, it's so hard to just completely disappear and vanish when the FBI and local law enforcement is on your scent, so to speak. It's just so hard to vanish. Poof. gone.
Yeah.
But at the same time here, if this is true, using a card that he wasn't authorized to use, a debit card that he wasn't unauthorized to use, is this really a bad misstep that makes you go, okay, does it make our commenters now say, okay, Brian Laundrie isn't as smart as we thought he was because he clearly made a big miscalculation here using a debit card, a Capital One card that he wasn't authorized to use? Well, I don't know if the guy is stupid or smart.
Well, I'll tell you what. I think that like pulling $1,000 out at one time when Gabby could have been theoretically alive and authorized it might be smarter than going across the country with the card and leaving a trail, I guess. So I don't know if that's what he did, if he did the cash thing and didn't buy airplane tickets or something else. Who knows? But,
yeah, I
but you
think
bring up a point. Look, and by the way, he's smart enough to have escaped law enforcement and any sort of scrutiny for weeks, right? Because we're talking a smaller window of when she possibly died, now kind of shrunk down to, just by what we know, to the 27th, 28th, and 29th. That's the window now. Maybe it's the 25th if the mom's suspicion about that text message about the grandfather is accurate. Regardless, it is now the 23rd. He has avoided law enforcement for that long, and he's avoided a search for up until 6 days ago. So he was smart enough to do that. And I also would say, we've talked about this. Look, you and I are looking at this. It's our job. And our wives, I think we've shared that, are looking at it because they perhaps identify with her in some way and they just think it's horrible what happened. But not everyone is looking at it. I would never assume. I talked to an attorney today. He hasn't been following it. He's been working. There's a lot of people who aren't looking at it. And with that in mind, he could slip through the dragnet. I think there's that absolute possibility. Stranger things have happened. You don't agree?
You know who isn't stupid? Our viewers. And let me tell you something. I'm not playing to the masses here. We have a large audience.
No, I hear you.
Large audience. I'm not playing to the masses. I promise you. Everyone, if you've been listening to me now for the last several days or more than a week now, as we've been live on the story, you know that I keep it straight with you. I keep it straight with you. I just want to thank our commenters one more time. I just added a bunch of comments here to the queue. Brilliant questions. I mean, really, really brilliant questions. Walt and I do this for a living. We cover stories and we break down, fact versus fiction and what we know and what we don't know. But there's some outrageously brilliant comments that are coming in that can now carry this conversation forward. And we're going to do that starting now with some of the hashtag HeyJB, hashtag HeyWalt comments that are coming in here. Jenny, we've had I hope you're all right there. We've had your profile picture there on screen for a while there. Again, use hashtag HeyJB or hashtag HeyWalt and we can animate your comment. And yes, it shows your picture on screen here. If you don't want us to do that, again, you don't want to be on a news stream with tens of thousands of people watching. We have more than 100,000 people watching us right now across all of our platforms. The number, I think my computer's broken because I can't give you a number across all platforms right now. But we have a lot of people watching. If you don't want your name and your comment and your picture on screen, just don't use a hashtag. But if you'd like for us to feature your comment, use hashtag HeyJB and hashtag HeyWalt. Okay. Back to here. I like holding something. Can I have the indictment?
Yes.
Thank you.
Well, that's nothing.
That one there, right?
That's it.
I like having a document in my hand. It's the
Shortest
only
indictment ever.
Yeah, maybe I'm just very attached to this and I just need it in my hand. But I'm holding on to it here so I can read it to you here, folks. But a big shout out to Alexis, our digital content producer, because she pointed out that this was filed. Yes, and then Walt read it. That this was filed yesterday. So now to Tori Lynn Brewer's comment here, hashtag HeyJB, hashtag HeyWalt. Now that there's a federal warrant, can they question his parents? Because if this is filed yesterday in court, an indictment in the District of Wyoming, could the trip to Orlando, and I'm asking here, could the trip to Orlando have been to answer questions pertaining to a federal arrest warrant and a federal indictment in the name of their son?
Then you ask why Orlando. It could be, though. There's no doubt it could be Orlando. Is the Denver office the office doing the questioning? They're the lead office, but why not come to Tampa?
why not?
That could be a flight issue. You've got an easier flight to Orlando.
Not to mention, if it is potentially a safety risk for them to leave their home. There's been a lot of crazy people, following this story. Okay, I've read some of the comments. I get messaged privately, DMs on my WFLA JB accounts, people who are, they're very passionate, let's just say, about this story.
Good way to put it.
And it could be a safety risk for them to leave their home if somebody really wanted to do something really, really sinister here. Couldn't the FBI Denver or the FBI in general just sent an agent to the house to say, Mr. and Mrs. Laundrie, we have a federal arrest warrant for your son. We have an indictment here that was signed by an acting U.S. attorney in the District of Wyoming, U.S. District Court. We would like to talk to you about these new developments. Would you please sit down and have a conversation with us? Couldn't they have done that in the comfort of their own home, the Laundrie household, rather than making them drive to Orlando? So all the people out there that are saying that the trip to Orlando today might have been connected to this, does 2 + 2 not equal 4 in this particular case, Walt?
All great questions, and I hate to say it, unanswerable right now.
Yep.
We do know from Joshua Taylor, and I don't know if we said this already, that the search will continue tomorrow, so they are not done out there, and that will be 5 out of the last, is that the right math? 6 out of the last 7 days. Tomorrow they will be searching the wooded area again.
Correct.
They're not done.
That is correct.
They are not done.
Again, the news that we just shared with you a moment ago, that there was some uncertainty whether or not the search would continue here at Carlton Reserve, the center of your screen from Eagle 8 HD earlier on today, flying over that vast wilderness there where Brian Laundrie could be. We don't know if he is there, but could be. And there was some uncertainty, whether or not they would continue the search on Friday. They have definitively said that they are going to be back tomorrow searching Carlton Reserve. This is a source of frustration for a lot of folks. A lot of people out there have been saying that that they don't think that Brian's there, and this is a waste of resources, manpower. There's no way that he is here based on where we are now in this story. And we understand, we hear your comments, but we don't know what the FBI knows as far as evidence that could lead them to be searching this area that heavily. An incredible amount of manpower and resources are combing through this dense wooded area of rural Sarasota County, Florida, near Venice. And you would think that this amount of resources being pooled into this one spot here of Carlton Reserve, 25,000 acres, by the way, leads us to believe here that they have something that leads
absolutely
something. Maybe, we had a comment earlier that we couldn't animate on screen because we ended our stream, but somebody said maybe one of the, we were talking earlier with Josh Benson, maybe one of the many trail cameras here in Carlton Reserve, maybe one of the many trail cameras did snap a picture of somebody that matches his description.
As many as 10 of those trail cameras, they capture wildlife. They very well could have captured Entman. I'm sorry. They could have captured Brian Laundrie.
Thank you. New developments. Brian Entin reporting from News Nation. News Nation, if you haven't heard of it, of course, check your local listings. News Nation, a great product here, folks, part of our parent company, Nexstar Nation. Brian Entin on Twitter confirming why we have Brian Laundrie's parents traveling to Orlando today. And it was for legal reasons. And a name that we haven't brought up here on this stream in some time, Stephen Bertolino. That Brian Laundrie's parents drove to Orlando to meet with the attorney, Stephen Bertolino. So that's new just in here moments ago from Brian Entin on Twitter. What do you make of that? Walt, you deal with lawyers, you deal with attorneys. You are he's
a New York area attorney. Easiest flight might have been into Orlando, plus less scrutiny if you drive an hour or so. What is it from their house? Well, it's actually more like 2 hours.
I meant to look that up earlier here. Orlando,
3 hours.
to Northport.
No, it's a 3 hour drive, but you do avoid the scrutiny, and nobody knows. Although we did find out 2.5. So that's one reason, I guess, to avoid the scrutiny. Although you wonder why. I don't know. You wonder why at this point you're already being scrutinized. But
2.5.
Face-to-face conversation, obvious at some point necessary here. That's interesting because we've sort of gone to this world of Zoom. We Zoom every day, and you wonder why it needed to be face-to-face.
Very curious too. Did Mr. Bertolino want to meet with? And do we know that the Laundrie parents are his?
I don't think we do. We
like
know that
clients.
We know he is Brian Laundrie's attorney. Do we know that he's the attorney for the parents?
I don't know that. And I don't know that. And I had a very kind commenter reach me via private message and say that it might not be legal for an attorney to represent a married couple and their son. But I don't know if that's true. We'll have to look into that. I don't know if Stephen Bertolino just exclusively represents Brian Laundrie or if also represents Brian Laundrie and Brian Laundrie's parents here. If you drive from Northport to Orlando and you go through Tampa, where we are, it's 2.5 hours. That's the shortest way. If you avoid Tampa at all costs, it's 3 hours plus. Going through some of the other roads that would take you to the other side of Florida, closer to the East Coast where Orlando is. Orlando is kind of smack dab in the middle of the peninsula, but kind of more close to the east side, closer to like Daytona Beach. So we don't know what route they took. Regardless, they made it to Orlando to speak with Stephen Bertolino, who flew down from New York to speak with Mr. and Mrs. Laundrie today. So, wow, again, another development here. Everything this is a pretty, we went about a 36-hour period with few developments. Now we have a lot of developments and so much to talk about here with this case. 8 on your side, senior investigator Walt Petito, JB Buno here with you live on WFLA Now. We're going to continue to take your questions and comments here. Walt, do you have dinner at home or a hot plate waiting for you?
I don't eat, JB.
What's that now?
I don't eat.
I haven't eaten. Do you know what I've eaten today? This is candid. A few M&Ms.
Delicious.
Alexis gave me some Swedish fish.
Like the M&Ms, I think there's some protein in those M&Ms. Are they peanut M&Ms?
No, I went milk chocolate. We haven't eaten. I've been all the drinking water that I've been doing has been mostly on stream here. This has been a story that we have been, again, we're commercial free here on WFLA Now. We don't go off until we take enough questions and comments.
Right.
What were you saying?
I said we don't go off till you say we go off.
That's. I want to make sure that our commenters leave the live stream feeling like we addressed all of the different questions and comments that are coming in. And with that said, let's get right back into it here. Donovan Roos, #HeyJB. To be honest, I feel like they are wasting their time searching there. I feel it's just to throw them off. And we've heard this question or comment rather, this observation or this opinion really so many times that there are people that are just, you can't tell them otherwise. Like the sky is blue, that Brian Laundrie isn't in Carlton Reserve. And I know that there are so many people that feel that way, but we don't know what the FBI knows. Kate Roper, #HeyJB. Could this have to do with the FBI determining the time of death?
Solid speculation there.
And I was addressing, our commenters earlier, Walt, about
sort of talked about that.
The excellent comments and questions are coming in, Kate, right on the money here. Could the time of death in the autopsy being performed on Gabby Petito's remains now open up avenues for federal indictments like this one?
To elaborate on that, I think the theory would be because if they know when she died, then they know that she could not have authorized those transactions, $1,000 in transactions, right?
Right.
And we know what, again, give me the transaction dates, 30th. Okay. I'm still a little...
This is why I wanted this in my hand.
The date is odd, right? Yeah. The 30th and the 1st. Isn't he back on the 1st? Is that accurate? Do we know he was back on the 1st? How do we know he was back on the 1st? Well, how do we know that?
That's an excellent question. I need to go back into my timeline. I'm going to go to WFLA.com.
So is he not back on the 1st? 30th and 1st, right? Is that what it says? 30th and 1st? No, it would be 31st and 1st.
30. No, wait. I remember from elementary school. August has 31 days in it.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. No, I remember the riddle. August. So it is I'm sorry. It's a period of 3 days.
30th?
I said 2 days earlier. And so maybe I don't remember my elementary school learning.
30th,
30th through the 1st.
So 30th, 30. So 3 days, and if you believe the text involving the reference to Stan, that's on the 27th. So Gabby is maybe alive on the 27th, plus an eyewitness account reported to another news agency that there was a fight, a pretty bad fight in a restaurant on the 27th, and now we have the 28th and the 29th. If they can nail down that cause of death, I don't know. That science fascinates me. Because the body, if that's the case, she had been dead 19, 20, 21 days. If they were able to nail that down, they somehow now know that that he was not authorized to use those cards during that 3-day period.
This is from WFLA.com, the WFLA app here. I'm going to read this as follows. September 1st, Laundrie returns home to Florida. Northport Police, the lead agency in the Gabby Petito missing person investigation, said Brian Laundrie returned to his parents' home with the van on September 1st. So that's according to Northport Police. But as people have been noting,
how do they know? Do they know it by what they were told? And that's interesting. And they're not answering our questions. How do they know he was there on the 1st? He's just Brian Laundrie at that point.
1 second here, folks.
Gabby's not even missing at that point.
We're going to come back here. We're going to go to black here for just a moment. Okay. We have so many viewers that were on the verge of breaking things. I'm not exaggerating here. We have a lot of viewers here, so many viewers here that we're tapping into across all social media platforms here that our system needs to reset. It's a true story. We're going to go to black here for about 12 seconds. Please don't leave. We'll continue the conversation here, but it's just so that we don't spontaneously disconnect like we did the other day. So we're going to go down here for just a moment. You'll see black on your screen, and we'll be back and we'll be able to take your questions and comments here live. Don't go anywhere. All right, and we're back here with you out of black here, folks. And again, thank you for being patient with us. It's because we didn't expect to have this much of an audience here tonight. So that reset there helps us prevent a disconnect here going forward. The last thing that we want to do is lose you, our audience. We don't want it to spontaneously end here as far as our live streaming. So we're back here with you live, and we'll stay here with you live and continue to answer your questions. Walt is talking to one of our wonderful producers here at WFLA, that being Liz Hall. And again, getting back, Walt, kind of refresh. I was just resetting things. What were we just chatting about?
You and I?
Yes.
I think we're talking about the timeline.
Timeline, yes.
And that we have been told, look, I don't like to question police this way. And this is not criticism to them because they're like us. There was no surveillance on Brian Laundrie when he came back. He wasn't even a person of interest on the first.
Let's make this clear for our audience. September 1st
is when police say they were told he was back. We now know from this indictment that he is accused of unauthorized use of devices, as in credit cards, debit cards, during a 3-day period in Wyoming, unless somehow federal law says you used it a state over, which I don't think is the case. He's accused in the Wyoming district, which covers just Wyoming. He's accused of using someone else's credit cards on the 30th, 31st, and 1st. So how is he back here on the 1st? It does change the timeline, right? And it's a question we asked Josh Taylor. You know, how do you know he was back on the 1st? And let's, again, not the parents. I don't know. The parents didn't tell police till last Friday that Brian hadn't been seen since Tuesday. And somehow the chief knew last Thursday. He told us a week ago that when he was asked, do you know where Brian Laundrie is? He said one word, yes.
Yes.
Right? So how did he know? Was it because he was told, or because they had eyes on him and they lost him? We don't know the answer to that.
Here's what every viewer right now at home watching is screaming. I know, because we've been covering this story now for more than a week, and I feel like I have a pretty good grasp on our audience. If they didn't have eyes on him, and if they didn't know for in fact that he was there, then Brian could be anywhere.
Yeah. Right.
Anywhere.
Well, okay. But the feds are now leading this investigation and have been for a week.
But
I mean, I just have to believe that they know something that makes them want law enforcement out there in the middle of that video right there. Right?
I want to hold that thought. The Fox News interview, the Guthries say that they saw Brian at the house. And the time frame for that was about a week to a week and a half after he got back. So if Brian Laundrie is in fact, now the Guthries are the neighbors. Fox News did the interview last night live from their front lawn. It was an interview that of course I think a lot of folks watched. And it was a man and a woman, the Guthries, Mr. and Mrs. Guthrie, answering questions live on Fox News and saying that they saw Brian Laundrie come home, and then, September 1st or so, and then a period of about about a week to a week and a half later, that's when they went on the camping trip. So let's bring up the next question and comment here on WFLA Now. And this one, thanks a lot, Kate, for your comment. That brings us up to Kathy. I've been speaking way too much. Kathy Jin Sutphin, #HeyJB. Where did Brian and his family go camping? Has anyone checked that location for Brian? And now again, if the Guthries see, that phone's ringing. You got it?
I got it. It's fine.
Okay. If the Guthries see Brian, and then Brian is no longer seen during that 3-day period. Brian is there and then he's not. And the turning point is that 3-day camping trip, if that is indeed true. And they said it was a weekendish trip. So that would put the timeline at around the 10th, 11th, 12th, somewhere in that time frame. The camping trip, then is that when Brian vanished? Is that when Brian just disappeared and found a way to get out from under the nose of law enforcement? If he was at that time under the nose of law enforcement, which I know that many of you have been speculating that.
Well, he wouldn't have been, right? Because the 11th he is when she's reported missing. What is the date he became a person of interest? It wasn't on the 11th.
No. It was after that.
So there's no
Petito
reason to
reported
watch him
missing
then.
on the 11th. Laundrie leaves leaves his home on the 14th, again, according to police, with the hiking bag. And then he's named a person of interest on the 15th. So then there's no way that they were really keeping tabs on him at the time, right? No. We would have known by now if they were really keeping tabs on him. I think Josh Taylor, in the interview that we had almost a week ago now, he would have said that he was saying that in that interview that they weren't necessarily keeping active tabs on him because he was a just a person of interest, and the investigation really hadn't risen to that point at that time. So. I don't know what this means now. I don't know what this means. We're gonna have to ask so many questions here now. New questions are brought into this equation.
Yeah, it definitely, in some ways it clears things up. I think it tightens the timeline. The day there were no points on the timeline for the days that of the 29th, 30th, and 31st. I'm sorry. Yeah, right? No. 29, 30, 31st, and 1st, right? There's nothing on the timeline for that. We have the text message on the 27th. Odd, according to Nicole Schmidt, Gabby's mom. Odd text message. We have that on the 27th. Mm-hmm. And we have credit card activity on 3 days, probably in Wyoming. And then we have a sort of a conflict there where how is there credit card activity in Wyoming on the 1st if he's back in Florida on the 1st?
Well, here's what this means to me, Walt, because, okay, because we were talking about how long it takes to drive, and we don't know if there was air travel. We don't know if air travel is a component here or a factor here in this investigation, really, for certain. What we know is that it takes about 35 hours to drive from Northwest Wyoming to Northport, Florida.
How many hours?
35 hours. That to me is a 3-day trip. So that's 11 to 12 hours of driving per day across 3 days. So did Brian Laundrie come home, drive August 30th, August 31st, September 1st, and return home matching the timeline, and over that period of time, use the Capital One debit card across state lines, making it a federal crime, a federal arrest warrant now being issued because it's occurring over state lines and occurring in multiple jurisdictions, but being filed in the District of Wyoming
you know
court.
What? When you say it like that, that's 100% possible, I think.
That really adds
We
up.
need a federal, and I know some former federal U.S. attorneys, and I can definitely reach out to them. That's totally plausible that theoretically is the card taken from Wyoming. And that's why it is filed in Wyoming. Is it filed in Wyoming because the feds are in Wyoming? They can file anywhere they want.
Or does the crime work like this? If I steal your credit card, I'm a pal. But if I stole your credit card and I went on a road trip and I was like, man, I got this debit card. I'm going to spend all of Walt's money.
Do it.
And I start in Florida and I hit up Alabama and I hit up Mississippi and I'm heading west and then I'm going to hit up Texas. I'm going to go all the way out to California, hit up all these states across this trip.
You probably do get charged here, so that does make sense.
Would it be the first charge being in Florida? I first use your debit card. Is that where the district of jurisdiction would be?
Maybe it's from where the card is stolen. And we're not lawyers, nor do we pretend to be lawyers, but that does make sense, and it makes more sense. The cash theory makes sense as well, but then you still have to ask, how do we know he was back on the first?
We don't.
We don't know.
We're taking Northport police at their word.
And they're more than likely taking. They could be taking the family's word as well on that.
Yeah, and let's just be very honest and candid with our viewers. I have never had to dissect a federal arrest warrant for use of unauthorized access devices all that much in the past. It's not. No. This is a very obscure federal crime.
I love cases like that because now the next time that charge comes across my desk, I'll be able to say, oh, that's credit card fraud, and people will go, wow, how do you know that? And here's why. I also would say that's the shortest indictment I've ever seen. Is it one page?
One page.
It's not even a full page.
This is it.
Not a lot of details.
I got rid of the white space. I even bent it. I mean, it's one page.
It's a one-page indictment. Very quick.
And so, again here, I want to make this clear. It's the federal arrest warrant for Brian Christopher Laundrie is for use of unauthorized access devices, which is a fancy way of saying you took someone's card.
It's credit card fraud.
Credit card fraud. You took someone's card, didn't have their permission, and you started spending money.
By the way, in that federal statute, as you read the whole thing, there are other things it could involve, including other types, not just credit cards. But in this case, we now know it's credit card fraud.
Let's get to some more questions here.
Alleged credit card fraud.
Alleged credit card fraud. Thank you. Very astute of you. And yes, alleged credit card fraud. Let's get to some more here. Amber Brock, hashtag Hey Walt, for you. Do you know how many transactions he made and which kind?
No, we don't. We know the total, though. The total is what, $1,000?
$1,000 aggregated.
$1,000 aggregated, which would lead you to believe it's more than one, correct?
Yeah, because hold on. Yeah, back to what I was saying earlier. If we're playing the words game here and really dissecting this by literally every character of this indictment, that I'll read it again: Capital One bank debit card and a personal identification number, the PIN, 4-digit PIN likely, for a Capital One bank account or Capital One bank accounts, and by such conduct obtained things of value aggregating to $1,000 or more during that period. Which, listen, this could, to Walt's point, this could be a $1,600 cash withdrawal from an ATM, or this could be a spending spree. more than $1,000.
Or gas. To your point, that it's filed in. I mean, because I guess when you think about it, what are you going to do? You're not going to file in every jurisdiction that he uses it, right? You're going to pick one jurisdiction. I feel relatively ignorant for even suggesting that it was all spent in Wyoming. But yeah, you bring up a good point. You're going to file in one jurisdiction. You're not going to file in every single jurisdiction that he crosses. You're going to file in that one. So it could very well be, and it logically means it's how he got home. He used those credit cards to get home.
This was the lifeline to get him back to Florida.
Yes.
Is what this leads
what
us
it
to.
Seems to believe.
What
to
it
be.
seems
Yes.
to be.
Yes.
We're staying rooted in reality. Again and again, trying to break down what this could be and what this could not be. And that's what we do with our commenters here. We tell you what is within the realm of possible and what is outside the realm of possible. And there's so much on each side of those two equations. Each side of that equation. Let's continue to take some questions here because again, our commenters here are right on the money. Amber, thanks a whole lot for your hashtag Hey Walt a comment here in the Facebook Live comment section, and we're taking comments and questions from Twitter and YouTube as well here. Cynthia Amaya, hashtag Hey JB. Doesn't it mean that he would have to be brought back to the U.S. if he's out of the country? Great question. So this is a federal arrest warrant. Now, okay.
We don't know he's out of the U.S., but yes.
Pretend time. If he is outside of the U.S., can this bring him back?
Oh, yeah, I would think that's. That's what the question is. Does that? Yes. For
using somebody else's card.
There are countries that cooperate with us and countries that don't. And is that an extraditable offense? Is it good enough to be? Is it big enough? I don't know that. It does say it's a felony, and I would bet that amount of money, the $1,000. Probably, if there is a misdemeanor in the federal system for that crime. Then I don't even know if there are federal misdemeanors. I don't think I've ever covered a federal misdemeanor. But if the dollar amount usually makes something a felony or a misdemeanor. So I would think on a felony, is it extraditable? I don't know. I think
back to the analogy that we were just talking about. If I steal your credit card and I'm having a great time because I'm using your credit card and I'm going on a spending spree and hanging out Florida, Alabama, Mississippi. I go all the way to Mexico. Okay. And then all of a sudden you realize your card is missing and you're out thousands of dollars. Can the Federal Bureau of Investigation on the grounds of this federal arrest warrant and this federal indictment call up Mexico and say JB Buno has been using Walt Buteau's card here and we want him back in the U.S. to prosecute?
I would imagine in that conversation there would be a discussion that he's a person of interest in a homicide. That you're not, but that
I'm not in this analogy.
And that could enhance that. I think if you just have someone on credit card fraud, I think even if it's extraditable, I would bet they have bigger fish to fry. But good question. I didn't get that out of it, but yeah, solid question. Yeah, that does theoretically help them with that.
Very interesting. An interesting comment and an interesting question here. Megan Walsh, hashtag AJB, could definitely be cash. He allegedly offered those people $200 to drive him 10 miles.
Solid point.
Okay.
Solid point.
Let's talk about this now.
But maybe he already had cash. He just needed more cash. Could have been cash, though. That's true. That does sort of cover all our bases, right?
Walt, do you know how many 22 and 23-year-olds walk around with a whole wad of cash these days?
How about 42-year-olds and 52-year-olds? Nobody has cash anymore. When I've used cash in various places, they tell me now because of COVID, we don't have change. Like there's a lack of change. So yeah, you're right. That's a good point.
It's almost weird if you do carry around cash these days.
Right.
And so if Brian Laundrie was either given advice or if he was cognizant enough of what had happened, and we don't know what happened, but cognizant enough of everything that was around him at the time and what he was currently going through at that time, if he knew he needed cash, then the TikTok video of the woman saying, I gave Brian Laundrie a ride, and we talked about that on a previous live stream. And we said that there's nothing to say that that is true other than this woman's word, and there's nothing to say that it isn't true. But if that's the case, if what Megan is saying here with this comment and then what you were saying earlier, if Brian Laundrie goes to the ATM, withdraws a whole lot of cash from, again, a card that we don't know whose card it is, but I think people are, of course, already theorizing whose card it is. If he takes all of this cash, then he has the ability to, yes, pay people for rides and pay with cash. So does that add up now? Does that pushes it more, that wrinkle of this story more towards the realm of possible versus the realm of
somebody
impossible?
tweeted at me, and I'm not going to say their name, but it's interesting, and I'll look this up tomorrow. WFCN News out of Marion, Illinois. By the way, I used to work. That was my first job in television in the Marion area.
Maryland?
Marion, Illinois. Well, it was Harrisburg, Illinois.
You said Illinois. I thought you said Maryland.
No, Marion, Illinois.
Okay.
And by the way, Marion's claim to fame is they have a federal prison there. I think it's a level 5. It's one of the only level 5s, I think, in the country, if I recall correctly. And Ray Fosse, the former Major League Baseball player, is from there. But it's getting late. I'm going nuts here. Anyway, here's what he says. WFCN News posted Monday of 2 separate reports from gas station employees in Benton, Illinois. That's Southern Illinois, by the way. That is Southern Illinois, where the Mississippi meets the Ohio. That FBI agents were requesting security camera footage in relation to the investigation. The reports indicate that Brian Laundrie may have used at least one card to purchase gasoline. Hashtag HeyJB. I stole your hashtag HeyJB, but you've got a lot of them over there.
Thousands that we couldn't get to if we had months to get to every question and comment that are coming in. Curious.
It is interesting, and it's interesting we hadn't seen that report, right?
Yeah, and this is
you think you've seen everything.
This is what happens now. So what's going to happen? All of this is now, as the saying goes, when you take a little ball of snow at the top of the hill and you push it down the hill, it gets pretty big, pretty quick, pretty fast. So now that things are starting to move here, this could be a very interesting 24 hours. Very interesting here. So we're going to stay here with you live on WFLA Now for a little bit longer here. We've been live all day here, but we're going to be back with you here live on WFLA Now tomorrow to continue breaking down what we know. Walt and I haven't had an opportunity to step away and just kind of process this without a microphone in front of our face just yet. So there's a lot, I'm sure, legal experts. I've been receiving text messages here on my phone, legal experts that are on standby to break down what this means and what this is and what this could be.
And let me plug the story that I worked on today, which was about legal experts, because we got a lot of questions about these things. That a couple things I want to point out, that Florida law does not allow parents cannot be charged as accessories after the fact under Florida law if your child is involved in the crime. Florida law, it's very specific. You cannot be charged accessory after the fact, and accessory after the fact means exactly what we think it means. You helped him after the crime was over. You cannot be charged accessory after the fact. So that nails that down. Also, parents, nobody, me, you, JB, nobody has any obligation to tell anybody where their child went, where their child is, where their child was, and that goes for, I don't have the obligation, even if you're not related, you are no legal obligation to tell anybody about anything when police come asking you questions. The one thing that there is the federal statute may open the door to charge accessory after the fact when a child is involved, but then there's a jurisdictional issue which could get a little fuzzy here. Where is an alleged crime committed? And I want to say we're speaking hypothetically here, obviously. And then the other thing that someone could be charged with hypothetically, and there's no exemption for, is not telling the truth to law enforcement, or obviously getting rid of evidence. A parent hypothetically can be charged with that even if their child is involved. But again, people are asking, why can't they charge them as an accessory? Why, or can a parent be charged as an accessory? No, that's state law. And the other point would be that a civil lawsuit, the rules are a little different, and there could very well be a wrongful death civil lawsuit filed by the parents of Miss Petito, and that could be aimed at Brian or possibly the parents, according to lawyers.
Man, let's take this next comment here from Michael Whitfield. Nice catch, Michael. By the way, he's got the holding up the fish for his Facebook friends. #HJB. Wouldn't theft of Gabby's van be part of that warrant that's unauthorized use? We talked to Northport Police, or they had a press conference, and they said that no, that there wasn't enough on the van to charge with the van. But, we didn't ask the FBI, whether or not taking someone else's vehicle, grand theft auto, if you will, and driving it across state lines and leaving without that person and taking their vehicle without explicit written permission or verbal even permission. We don't know if that's a federal crime or not. And that would have been very, very interesting if there was multiple charges here. But you file charges that stick.
Well,
must stick.
Let me just say this, and again, so the van's a little more. That scenario is a little jankier, if you will, in that we don't know that she didn't authorize him to use the van, right? He was authorized to use the van. He's been driving it for weeks. So we don't know she didn't authorize to use the van. Now, and once she's no longer with us or whatever happened there, that may be a more difficult case to prove than we know she was gone and yet her credit cards were still being used, or we have pictures of him using said credit cards, which sort of plays into this report I was told about from WFCN that indicates in Benton, Illinois, there were reports that Brian Laundrie may have used at least one credit card to purchase gasoline there. So now like you said, you file charges that stick. That charge is going to stick. It still raises the question, why this charge now?
Yep.
Why not the more serious charge? And all we can say about that is we would presume there isn't enough evidence to file a more serious charge.
Again, Gabby Petito's name is not in this indictment. It's not in the federal arrest warrant.
Neither is the word homicide or murder or whatever it would be.
Yep. This is not connected to Gabby's death right now. This is a charge for unauthorized use of a Capital One debit card. And but this could be one of the first of several, depending on where this investigation goes, of course, as far as charges. But this doesn't change too much. This doesn't change. This changes that if they find him, they can slap handcuffs on him right away. But it doesn't change the fact that we still are no closer, really, or at least we are aware of, we're no closer to finding Brian.
He's still a person of interest in the homicide.
He hasn't been,
He's still, right?
He's not a suspect.
He is a suspect in this particular case, although the feds don't call him that. But in the homicide, he is a person of interest. He's a suspect in the credit card issue, but he's a person of interest in the homicide.
That's going to frustrate a lot of people, that he is still a person of interest in Gabby Petito's.
And I would bet there's a news agency out there somewhere that didn't dot their I's and cross their T's that has called him a suspect in the homicide, because it all happened so quickly. And if you didn't read that news release carefully, and if you didn't wait for, we have, our coworkers who are very sharp, Alexis obviously coming to us with the actual indictment, which was huge because that told quite a story, right?
It did. And when we first had the breaking news alert here live on WFLA Now, we said that there was a federal arrest warrant. We said that Brian was, now the subject of a federal arrest warrant in his name. We never said he was a suspect. We brought it up. We said, does this make him a suspect now? And then it came out about 10 minutes later that the charge was use of unauthorized access devices. And then we had to wait for the indictment to come down because it spells out that it was pertaining to a Capital One debit card and having the PIN number for two accounts. Let's talk about that. We haven't talked about that. How do you?
I know my wife's PIN number.
I was going to ask.
I think she knows my PIN number.
I think my wife knows mine.
Yeah.
I think I know my wife's.
You're on a trip. You're on a trip somewhere. I mean, I can see that happening. So yeah.
I would imagine. So listen, these two are engaged now. Listen, we're scurrying here with what we know on this particular indictment, there's nothing in here that says that the debit card belonged to Gabby Petito. There's nothing in here that says that the checking and debit accounts were in Gabby Petito's name. But a personal identification number for a Capital One a bank account that Brian Laundrie knew. He knew it. He was given it by somebody.
Yeah.
And so that again, another wrinkle here to this story.
To a story with a lot of wrinkles.
Kelly Lindsay, hashtag AJB. I don't understand why they aren't searching where they went camping. And
they may not know where they went camping.
Or
right?
they do, and they are searching that area right here in the center of your screen.
Right. That's right.
Well, but we don't know what adds up and doesn't add up. So,
right.
My goodness, so much to comb through, so much to dissect. Walt?
And along the lines of, and we've been saying this, people keep asking, why haven't they said this? Why haven't they said that? Well, they just don't tell us everything. That's not how it works. And I will tell you that in this particular case, it shows that they don't tell us everything, because that indictment came down yesterday and the news release came down today. That is not unusual with federal agencies. And do they have a reason for that? We don't know, but that's what happened in this case. This information was out there yesterday, but the release of it doesn't happen until today.
So, folks, we are going to be stepping away from the microphone here in just a moment. Don't go anywhere. We're gonna expel what we're doing now going forward. If you've been watching here for an extended period of time, we first and foremost appreciate you watching us here. We're always going to stay rooted in reality and separate fact from fiction. And you have my word, and I think I speak for Walt here as well, that we are going to, of course, compassionately and accurately tell this story, and we're going to do it here in the moment. We were live on stream when this news came down, and we've been breaking it down here. We've had microphones in front of our faces here now since this news came down. We are going to be stepping away from the microphones here, but that doesn't mean here that the work stops now. In fact, the work is just getting started, really, for our team here at WFLA News Channel 8 and on WFLA Now. So what this means is, folks, we're going to be stepping away from our live stream coverage. And what we're going to do, I know that we have an enormous audience. I know that we have more than 100,000 people watching. So it's a very sizable audience, and we appreciate you spending part of your Thursday night here with us. But we are going to take way more hashtag HeyJB, hashtag HeyWalt, all the hashtag questions that we can animate on screen. We're going to take more of those when coverage resumes on WFLA Now tomorrow. Our coverage plan is still coming through here, and I know that we have a lot of folks. Walt, you've been talking about it. We have a lot of folks joining us from the UK, from Germany, from Australia. You were getting some weird phone calls from Russia earlier. Are you really Walt Petito, by the way? Like you are who you say you are, right?
I am.
Walt's on our previous live stream. His phone was ringing off the hook, and it was some activity from Russia. We didn't know what that was about, but I think we're finding out a little bit more about that. Anyway, point being is, this is a international audience. There have been people who have messaged me privately saying, "Hey JB, I live in this country, and I can only get minor updates here because it's not huge in my country, but I am locked into this story. When and where can I watch you?" So I'm going to let our viewers here know that we are going to continue our interactive coverage here of the story and all the new developments. And if this was an action-packed evening here as far as developments, so much happening, from the reward to the trip to Orlando to the federal arrest warrant being issued to the search now not being TBD for tomorrow, but we're going to have more of a search effort tomorrow at Carlton Reserve. So much has happened here, and we're going to continue to comb through it tomorrow, Friday, on WFLA News Channel 8, on WFLA Now, and on, of course, all of our platforms here where we stream. So what that means now going forward, we're going to step away from the microphones here, but we're just now going to really start to get to work here. And we really hope that you join us tomorrow. And I promise you have my word, across Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and YouTube, we will take more of your questions and comments using the hashtags here on your screen. Okay, so then the next question is, JB, when are you live tomorrow? I spoke to my team members here. It's going to come together. Our coverage is going to come together. We have a lot of folks that are going to be part of our coverage tomorrow. And it's gonna be a live stream where we're really gonna bring in a whole lot of expertise here to answer your questions and to talk about what is fact and what is fiction and what is in the realm of possible and what is in the realm of impossible. And so that is gonna come. I think we might start at 11 a.m. Eastern. We might start at noon Eastern. We're still figuring out the exact coverage plan tomorrow. We're not on TV, so it's not like we have to tell you, we have to be live at this time. We're on digital. We're online, so we can pick the time that we want. And follow me on WFLA JB Twitter, WFLA JB Facebook, and WFLA JB Instagram. I will post the exact time of our stream starting tomorrow. And you have my word here, we will know a whole lot more about exactly what this means legally here as far as the arrest warrant that has now been filed against Brian
JB,
Laundrie.
quick housekeeping note, just because this was sent to me by a viewer. I think she tweeted at us too, but this is a great, sometimes we're not remembering every single detail. The search warrant stated that the van's license plate was red. I don't know what search warrant she's referring to. The van's license plate was red on 75 coming back through Northport 9/1 at 10:26 a.m.
Right.
So it's not just the word of police or the parents. So that is a 9/1. So now it mystifies us a little bit. Although I guess if he used the credit card on 9/1 somewhere, right? Or if he
in Florida.
So that brings us back to the credit card theory, correct?
What do you mean?
I'm sorry.
No, please.
Brings us back to not taking $200 or $1,000 out in Wyoming, but use a string of uses that simply was
originated potentially in Wyoming.
Filed in Wyoming.
Yes, back to
Great. I appreciate it. I won't say your name because you didn't say I could, but I thanked her online. Thank you for reminding me of that. So that makes a lot of sense.
Yes, and I also too forgot about the tag, of course, getting
cameras are everywhere.
Yeah,
JB.
they are.
Cameras are everywhere.
And to that point, the camper, people are asking, there had to have been Ring doorbell camera, traffic camera, surveillance camera somewhere that captured where the camper went. If the Guthries are right, this 3-day camping trip, there has to be video of that camper being towed somewhere. And that everyone's got cameras everywhere in the pockets, of course, on us, in our purses, on our front doors, on our everywhere. There's cameras everywhere, so someone knows where that camper went, or somebody has footage. And there's a reminder: $20,000 reward now. So maybe
25 if you can get both, right?
You can get both. So these rewards now that have been offered here, there's a monetary incentive for somebody maybe who has surveillance video or Ring doorbell video of the camper or of something else that shows where Brian Laundrie might be. There's incentive for them to come forward here and provide that and collect a 5-figure sum. And so we'll see where that goes. Again, the streaming coverage here on WFLA Now continues Friday, September 24th, 2021, with our entire team here at WFLA News Channel 8. I'd like to personally and professionally thank 8 on Your Side Senior Investigator Walt Petito for extended coverage here, staying a little bit late past the hour here for us as far as what we normally do here, but nothing's normal here. These circumstances aren't normal. And if I didn't have to worry about my vocal cords, I would stay with you live here, folks, personally for another couple of hours. I really would. But I've been told here, my superiors here at WFLA have told me that, and if you joined us earlier in the week, my vocal cords were starting to go because of so much streaming coverage here, continuous nonstop coverage here. And so I've been told here to rest my vocal cords until tomorrow afternoon or tomorrow morning stream here. Follow me again on WFLA JB, Twitter, and Instagram, where I'll give you a heads up as to the exact time when we're going to go live with team coverage here on all these new developments on Brian Laundrie and, of course, really on Gabby Petito. The latest for you on WFLA.com, our entire team here at WFLA News Channel 8, writing copy right now, articles for WFLA.com. We have the Gabby Petito, Brian Laundrie article hub there. Everything that we know is on WFLA.com and the WFLA app. If you're joining us on social media, you'll find the link in the description on this video, and you can click it. It'll take you over to one of our many articles there, and you can read the very latest here on Gabby Petito and Brian Laundrie. We'll not stop here, folks, until we have, of course, more information here on this story, and our team is working around the clock to produce these articles. So if you're done listening to Walt and I, you can read the latest here on WFLA.com and the WFLA app. Big thanks to our team here at WFLA News Channel 8. Again, follow me, WFLAJB, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, where we'll announce the start of our coverage time tomorrow here on WFLA Now with the latest on Gabby, Petito, and Brian Laundrie.